Salutations, one and all! So, now that Volume 8 of RWBY has come to an end, we're all left in this strange state where there's really nothing left to do but wait for news about Volume 9 and construct insane fan theories, like Crow was secretly Oscar's father, or the island they went to at the end of Volume 8 is actually the afterlife, and Team RWBY, John, and Neo are going to get a chance to talk to the dead. Actually, that's a pretty good theory. I might come back to that one down the road. But for today, I wanted to touch on an old theory. Is Salem secretly Summer Rose? This is actually pretty popular back during volumes 3, 4, and 5, and there were a lot of variations on it. My own personal belief, my own personal headcanon, was that Salem works in a way similar to Ozpin. Every time her body dies, her soul just transfers into another host. But because Ozpin is just really, really bad at sharing, Summer and Raven weren't aware of this particularly useful bit of information when they murdered the previous iteration of Salem, at which point Raven was forced to watch helplessly as her best friend was possessed by Salem's spirit, as Summer was slowly turned into the current version of Salem. And that's the reason why Raven was so angry at Ozpin. His secrets literally cost Summer her life. Of course, this entire theory was completely and utterly blown out of the water in Volume 6, when we actually got to see Salem's backstory and found out that she's only had the one singular body for the last several thousand years. So, theory busted? I mean, that's what I thought until we got to the end of Volume 8. This scene, as Salem is moving as a cloud of smoke, it feels very, very familiar. In fact, it seems almost identical to how RWBY looks when she's using her semblance. If you zoom in, you can even see what appear to be shredded rose petals. And this brought me back to the very origins of Ruby Rose, Little Red Riding Hood. And what happened to her grandmother? She was eaten by the big, bad wolf. So yeah, is it possible that Salem ate Summer Rose's soul? I know that might sound insane, and it is kind of insane, but I do think there's some evidence behind it. First off, can Salem even eat a person's soul? Yes, she can. In fact, we've seen it quite often in this series. In Cinder's power, she can use her grim arm to steal a maiden power. And you might think, well, maiden power isn't a person's soul, but the two are deeply, deeply linked. For one thing, stealing maiden's power seems fairly fatal to the maiden, and even with all of Ozpin's magic and Ironwood's technology, he wasn't able to separate the maiden's power from the maiden. Back when they tried to transfer the Fall Maiden's powers into Pyrrha, she was told that when the process finished, she probably wouldn't be Pyrrha anymore, because it wasn't just the powers, they were transferring over the Fall Maiden's entire soul into Pyrrha's body, because the two literally could not be separated. So yeah, if Salem is capable of stealing maiden powers, I definitely think it's capable that she can steal a person's soul, and as a result of that, she might have gotten Summer's semblance as well. This, of course, then raises the question, did Summer have a similar semblance to RWBY? And that's a very good question. I mean, Weiss, Willow, and Winter do all have the same semblance, so it is certainly possible, but this definitely seems like more an exception than the rule. And Ren said that a person's semblance is basically an embodiment of who they are as a person, so just because two people are mother and daughter doesn't guarantee they'll have the same or even similar semblances. That being said, though, RWBY and Summer look a lot alike, and multiple people, Raven, Crow, even Salem, have commented about how RWBY is so similar to her mother. So if they look a lot alike, if they act the same way, if they had a similar fighting style maybe, I could definitely see them having the same or similar semblances, and if Salem did in fact eat Summer's soul, then now Salem could have the same semblance as RWBY, which, yeah, that's awful. That's really, really awful, but could also lead to absolutely freaking amazing final fight, as they're both basically using the same semblance to attack one another, just going at ridiculous speeds that no one else can follow. I would love to see that. I would love to see that. I mean, I think we can all agree there is definitely something weird going on with Summer Rose. She appeared in the very first trailer of the series, basically screaming, "I'm gonna be important down the road," and then she just wasn't. Volume 2 had Gang mention her briefly, Volume 3 had revisiting her grave, and then Crow showing us a blurry old picture of her where her face was half covered. Thanks, Crow. Very helpful, very helpful. It wasn't until Volume 6 we actually got to see what she looked like. We actually got a full shot of her, and that just screamed to basically all the fans, all the theorizers, okay, Summer Rose is going to start being important again, and she was. Volume 7 finally had RWBY asking Crow, what happened to my mother? How did she die? Finally! Thank you, RWBY. And we got the answer. Crow doesn't know. Apparently, Ozpin didn't know either. So, yeah, that's concerning. Very, very concerning. And those concerns were warranted, given near the end of the volume, Salem seemed to imply that she murdered Summer. But she didn't outright say it, which is definitely worrisome. She just said, oh, that's exactly what your mother said to me. So, yeah, and again, those concerns were warranted, because then in Volume 8, we got to meet the Hound, who was made out of a silver-eyed warrior. So, that's bad. That's very, very bad. And RWBY concludes from this that her mother was also grimified, turned to a monster just like the Hound, but This doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I mean, for one thing, the law of drama basically dictates if your mother turns into a horrible monster, you have to face her, you have to stop her, you have to essentially put her out of her misery. So Ruby would have to face the Summer Hound at some point down the road, but I mean, the Hound we saw seemed rather unstable. I'm not sure if it would have lasted for, over a decade at this point. And then there's the bigger issue of where exactly is it? I mean, Salem seemed to have brought her entire forces to Atlas in the space whale, and Oscar Ozpin kind of blew up the space whale beyond repair, killing every Grimm inside of it, so Ozpin might have, already murdered the Summer Hound, which, that'd be interesting, definitely interesting, but seems so very, very unlikely. It just doesn't seem to be the case that there is another Grimm out there who possesses Summer's body inside of it and is using it as, a means of gaining intelligence. And so I think it's way more likely that Salem consumed Summer's soul, and when she did so, she was absolutely shocked to find that Summer remained alive, her soul remained intact inside of her because of the power of the Silver-Eyed Warrior, because of the power of the God of Light. In the same way that Salem survived bathing in the pool of Grimm because she had been cursed by the God of Light, Summer survived inside of Salem's body. And this is what ultimately inspired her to create the Hounds, because she realized the Silver-Eyed Warriors could survive being exposed to all this power of Grimm and death. And down the road, I think we're going to get an absolutely heartbreaking moment when Ruby comes face to face with Salem for the first time. I think Summer Rose is going to break free, not in the sense where she's going to get her body back and be alive again, but in the sense where she gains control of Salem's body for just a few brief moments, just long enough for Ruby to finish her off or escape, and, just as long enough for her to tell Ruby, I love you, my little rose petal, I love you so much, and I'm so proud of you for being a huntress, for fighting, even when all hope seems lost, I love you, and I will cry, and we will all cry, and I cannot freaking wait to see it. So yeah, that's my theory, but before I go, I'm going to share a much, much darker theory, a much more twisted theory, which seems way less likely, but still feels like it might have a kernel of truth in it, so I just feel the need to share it. What if Summer Rose was always Salem? What if there never was a person named Summer Rose? It was always Salem in disguise. Yeah, that's twisted. That is so utterly, utterly twisted. What if she used her magic to disguise herself as an ordinary human being to hide all of her dark, grim energy and went to Beacon Academy just to infiltrate, just to figure out exactly what Ozpin was up to? Oh, that'd be so, so heartbreaking, though it'd also mean that Ty banged Salem, which... Okay, I'd actually like that. I actually really like that if that was the case. I mean, the big hole in that theory is that Yang remembers Summer as a wonderful mother, but the only thing she can really compliment her about was her baking cookies, which definitely an important part of being a mother, but also, how you get kids to shut up by just giving them all the cookies they want. Plus, Yang was, 6, 7 years old when Summer died? She is definitely looking at the past with rose-tinted glasses, so maybe some possibility to that. I mean, just this look that Salem gave Yang when Yang describes Summer Rose as being her mother just feels... It feels like she was about to say something that would destroy that woman's entire world, so... Yeah, those are my theories, 2 theories. Like I said, the first theory is way, way more likely. Just wanted to throw out the second one, just because I think there's a slim, slim chance that might come true down the road. But yeah, let me know down below. Do you think there's any possibility that Summer Rose's soul is still alive inside of Salem? And if so, what's that going to lead to down the road? Is she going to break free? Is she going to incapacitate Salem in some way? Is she going to give RWBY some final words? What do you think is going to happen in Volume 9? Do you have any other crazy theories you think I should make a video on? Be sure to like and subscribe to this video so you don't miss the next one. Until then, peace!